Hey everyone, Larry here from the IoTeX team. Welcome to the IoTeX Town Hall for February 2021. We got a really great presentation for you today, taking you guys through all the great progress we made even last year, and we've had already amazing 2021 already. So there's a lot of interesting things we got going on. I hope everyone can hear me okay. How's the audio? Okay, well, I hope the audio is okay for everybody. Basically, what we're going to do today is we're going to walk through some big updates from the IoTeX project. As some of you have seen, we just announced a really big partnership with the China Mobile IoT Alliance, but there's so much more behind it. Even earlier this month, we launched our 2021 roadmap. So we're going to take you through all of those specific things. And at the end, for those of you that registered via Zoom, we're going to take some Q&A to really dive deep and explain some of the context behind some of the announcements. I know, IoTeX is launching new things at a rapid clip, and sometimes it takes some time to just step back, see the bigger picture, and how everything connects. So with that, we want to get started with our town hall presentation today. For those of you on Zoom, remember that you can always drop your comments using the Q&A function that you see on your dashboard there. But also for those of you on YouTube, we're going to be taking your questions there and probably answering them after as well. So let's get started. The things that we're going to cover today during our town hall, we're going to start with some ecosystem updates. The growth of the ecosystem has been really amazing to see. We're just going to dive into a high-level overview of all the cool things that are going on. We're going to spend some time on Pebble Tracker, explaining what's coming up with our new Powered by IoTeX product, and really what you can expect from Pebble over the next couple months. Then we're going to dive into our section on the China Mobile IoT Alliance. As I mentioned, this is a really big initiative that we've been working on for more than 1 year. The nature of these enterprise relationships is always so confidential, but we're really excited that we can finally bring this to you guys. And finally, we're going to dive deep into our 2021 roadmap. For those that have seen it already, it's going to be a great primer, but I'm going to give you additional context that's going to really make sense of the sequence and make sense of the importance of what IoTeX is building this year. And finally, we're going to save some time for Q&A. If there's any immediate questions that I see, I may answer them in between sections here, but save your questions for the end and we'll be sure to answer all of them in order. So with that, we're going to get started right here with some ecosystem updates. Starting with the look back at IoTeX 2020. IoTeX 2020 was a really rapid year where we really defined a lot of the fundamentals of our platform. And this is really exemplified when you take a look into the timeline of launches that we've had in 2020. Looking here, it brings a smile to my face to see, just to remember all of the progress that we made. But even if you think about it, the fact that IoTeX won the CES Innovation Award for Ucam only about 1 year ago tells you just how much rapid progress we've made. You can see the first part of 2020 was all about building out some foundational tools and getting IoTeX really rubbing shoulders with some of the larger organizations in the world. So our affiliations with IEEE, we're the co-chairs of the Blockchain Working Group with the Industrial Internet Consortium, working with partners like Nordic Semiconductor and the World Economic Forum. But you really started to see a shift in mentality starting in the middle of 2020. And what was the catalyst? It was mainnet GA, our production level platform, and our native IoTeX only network. This really, as we mentioned to you when we launched mainnet GA, it's going to give us a lot of flexibility and control over how we see and build the IoTeX ecosystem going forward. And just looking at all the things that are launching on top of IoTeX after mainnet GA was launched, including our cross-chain bridge to Ethereum, including our cross-chain DEX, MIMO, which now has, I believe, over 500 million IoTeX as, of liquidity on the DEX. We launched new tokenomics that really leverage the speed and flexibility of our blockchain. And we're starting to see the real IoT products also being powered by the IoTeX blockchain here. So when we look back at 2020, we're going to see a lot of foundational building and really a launch pad for what's coming next in 2021. Another thing that makes me very happy to just look at is the growth of the IoTeX ecosystem across applications, across partners, across network tools, and across key stakeholders, and of course, wallets. This is just it's not even all of the logos that we have that kind of comprise the IoTeX ecosystem here, but it's just really great to see everything evolving at the pace that we're expecting it to. We always view IoTeX as the hub for a lot of like-minded people that share our vision for the Internet of Trusted Things. And it's just really great to see more and more people subscribe, not only as users, but also as stakeholders that are contributing different things to the network, especially on the partner side. For those that have not explored the full IoTeX ecosystem, I really advise you guys to go to ecosystem.iotex.io, where we have details about all of the logos you see here. And it's really going to give you a good picture about what IoTeX is about, and by extension, what all of our partners and community members are about as well. Moving on to some other things in the network, we just passed 10 million transactions this month on the IoTeX network, a really great milestone. And we're looking forward to the next 10 million here. A lot of the transactions that we've had are based on Ucam registrations, staking, burn drop. So all of these things are just going to continue rolling forward. There's a lot of new smart contracts out there. Cyclone just launched, and we saw it increase the transaction volume in the network a lot. We're closely monitoring the network to make sure we can handle the larger overhead. And we're happy to report that the chain has been reacting perfectly. A lot of the optimizations we've been making as part of mainnet version 1.1, which we launched in September, and also now observing the activity in the network to make sure we design mainnet version 1.2 well, which we'll talk about later on in the session. Another thing that's really great is that the number of devices that are powered on the IoTeX platform is not only increasing, but also it's reaching more and more countries. So this is the latest snapshot of kind of the Internet of Trusted Things footprint. We see a lot of folks in all different kinds of countries, and it's great to know that now we are on every continent except Antarctica. So if anyone wants to set up a Ucam in Antarctica, let us know. We'll give you a Halo grant to do that. But it's just really great to see 1,846 devices on the platform, and that number is only growing. For those of you that don't understand what these numbers mean and how it translates to the network, we have this program called Burn Drop, where for every new device that's registered to the network, a new burn action will be triggered. And so far, we've burned 125 million IoTeX and also dropped 13 million IoTeX to long-term stakers. So for those of you that want to check out this website, it's called IoTT Network. And you can also view all of the different registrations on the network itself. What's driving these numbers to go up? A lot of the activity that we've had, of course, we're still selling on Amazon, but we're bringing Ucam to a lot of new channels already in 2021 and throughout the year. So our big focus is really to put Ucam on channels that have audiences that really respect and value the innovativeness of this technology. One of them is Touch of Modern, which is one of the largest flash sale type websites for modern technology and products in the United States. In December, we ran our first flash sale with Touch of Modern, and this month we ran our second flash sale, which was themed around Touch of Modern's tech favorites from CES. So as a CES Innovation Award winner, IoTeX was featured right on the top page, and it's really great to see IoTeX not only featured on pages, but also featured in the top of these pages, which means we have the backing of the mainstream. And I think this is something that is just something that, you know, is overlooked a lot of times. It's not just that people understand our product is there, they're really putting the backing behind it to make it front page visible. So one big thing that we wanted to mention is that this is not the end for Ucam. You know, we have so many inbound requests, and I think it's because privacy and decentralization is starting to become a staple in people's minds. They're searching for it as a feature, and this is something that's brand new, triggered probably by the WhatsApp to Telegram to Signal migration, and all of the things that are going on in the mainstream that, you know, push us to consider decentralization as an option. We're seeing it from the media, and you can expect some really big coverage of Ucam and some new channels, even starting this month and throughout this quarter. So we're really excited for that. Another thing is, you know, we're welcoming even more people, not just devices, to the IoTeX network. So big news that we've had this month is that IoT pioneer Robert Parker, who is the former CTO of Samsung SmartThings, former director of Amazon Alexa, founding director of Amazon Alexa, and GM at Microsoft for over 18 years, has joined our advisory board to really bring us closer to making our private devices smarter and more user-friendly. So Robert has decades of experience in this area, kind of at the intersection of user experience and technology, right? And innovative technologies, frontier technologies. So this is really a step in expanding our influence in the consumer IoT space and starting to, you know, design the next big products alongside us. So very great to see Robert here. If you guys haven't listened to our podcast we did with Robert, he really explains exactly how IoT is going to fit into blockchain this decade and what we can expect from all of this evolution from a real world perspective, how it affects users. So definitely go check that out. Another big thing that happened this month is IoTeX was listed on Huobi, which is the second largest exchange by volume, only behind Binance. So now IoTeX is on the two largest exchanges by volume in the world, with all two of both of them having USDT, Bitcoin, and Ethereum pairs. So I think the trading competition that we did with Huobi to launch this was just concluded, but I think there's now a staking competition going live. So for those of you that are in international audiences, I don't think Huobi Global is available to the US as of now, but all of you guys can go and check out the staking competition. There's a lot of really big prizes available. I think over 27 million IoTeX we're giving out as part of this launch campaign. So really excited to bring new liquidity and new traders to the IoTeX ecosystem as well. Just want to touch on a really cool project that just came out and already has $1.5 million of total volume locked. And that's Cyclone. It's a ZK Snarks protocol, kind of like a token obfuscator with really cool tokenomics that are backing it. Shout out to the Cyclone team. They've been doing their best to keep up with all the volume. Sometimes when you have such a successful launch, it's not easy to keep up with the requests. So really excited to see all of that working out very well for these guys. Not only are we bringing new anonymous teams and peoples with faces to the audience, but our delegates and our community are also now welcoming new partners in. So Metanix, our top delegate by votes, just partnered with Ramp DeFi to bring new liquid staking to the IoTeX network. You know, we're going to plan to do an AMA with Metanix to really dive into all of their plans. They're working on a number of Halo grants and a number of projects with Ramp and some others that we're excited to announce very soon. But it's really great to also see this kind of extension of the IoTeX network, bringing in new partners and new communities. So shout out Metanix. Thanks for all the great work. Some partnerships. You know, we just signed a partnership with GDAC, the Global Digital Assets Corporation, that is a very close liaison to the Dubai Future Initiative. I know a lot of you guys have been asking us about what types of use cases we're really working on here. A lot of the things that we made proposals for and they sought our insights into were around tracking applications, video cameras within the cities. And Dubai has this really interesting initiative. They wanted to be the first city powered by blockchain by the end of 2020. I think COVID really put a damper on that, but now this is picking back up steam and they're really starting to get this Dubai Expo 2021 moving. So we're excited to jump back in and understand, where we can fit into Dubai's lofty goals of such an admirable plan to bring blockchain to that level of audience. So that's it for the ecosystem updates. It's a mouthful, but all the things we talked about were things that happened in January. And it's really incredible to think about, after such a massively successful 2020, we're kicking off this year stronger and faster than ever. So a lot of the things that you see are around new initiatives, and we expect to see more and more new initiatives. But the thing I want to make everyone understand is just because we're launching new initiatives does not mean we're just bypassing the others that are very important that we launched last year. A lot of the things we've done around integrations to exchange frameworks, different types of products and protocols like TrueStream, all of these are kind of bundled up into our future work as well. And really a big priority for us to not only launch new initiatives, but continue to iterate and close them out as necessary. So really great progress in the ecosystem so far. And next I want to jump into Pebble Tracker, which is the newest powered by IoTeX device designed specifically for more hardware developers. So what is Pebble Tracker to start, right? It's tamper-proof hardware that meets tamper-proof software. Basically, this Pebble Tracker, I have one right in front of me here. Pebble Tracker is a secure hardware device. It has a chip in it, just like the chip you see in your phones that does your fingerprints and your face IDs, as well as your ledger device to manage your private keys. We use that secure element and we make it programmable in order to bring verifiable real-world data from the real world to the blockchain for use in smart contracts. And I know that's an abstract concept to a lot of people. It's important to add some context as far as what we can actually do with this verifiable data once it's generated, right? Pebble Tracker is coming soon to CrowdSupply, which is one of the leading crowdfunding platforms for innovative hardware products in the world. They have a community of thousands of hardware folks. And what we're really excited about is, we have our own plans to bring this to the blockchain audience in a lot of different ways. And we're going to be announcing actually some new partners specifically to bring this to more developers in the United States first, and then to international audiences. We're already talking to some developer and hackathon organizers in countries like China and India and Russia. If you think this would be a big hit in your country, let us know, and we would love to dig into kind of the developer footprint and just where all the hardware developers are. What this is really interesting is, CrowdSupply is not a blockchain funding platform. This is a hardware platform, and it's really impressive to me that we've already have hundreds of subscriptions here about people that are interested in backing the product. But what they're backing, similarly like people that are buying Ucam as a blockchain-based security camera, they are buying Pebble Tracker as a blockchain-ready prototyping platform for IoT. So the acknowledgement of blockchain as a feature and as something that people want is starting to turn a leaf, especially for IoT. So I think up until now, IoT and blockchain has been so abstract, a lot of promises given by other projects out there, but really nothing really to show for it that is impressive, at least maybe impressive to the blockchain audience, but nothing that's going to be impressive to the IoT audience like IoTeX is doing. So make sure to subscribe if you're a developer out there. This is a really dynamic device to prototype with. And the best thing is we are working a lot on different SDKs and tools that will make building on Pebble Tracker very seamless and easy. And we're going to be having an early bird campaign price of only $99, which for a device like this we're actually losing money on these devices. So we just want to get these devices into your hands and see what you build with it. Another thing I wanted to mention is that the Pebble Ideathon voting is now open. Over the past month, we made a challenge to the entire IoTeX community to experiment and explore areas in their personal and professional lives where Pebble Tracker can be used to build trust or to fill a trust gap, more specifically. I can't stress this enough, but we were blown away by the creativity of the community, especially the 30 finalists that we chose. So what we've done is we put all of the 30 finalists' ideas into a nice clean deck, and voting is now open. You can check our Twitter, our Telegram, our channels to see the links, but I really suggest everyone go check out all the amazing submissions that the community had submitted. Some of them even taught me a lot about the world, right? I didn't know Jakarta's air pollution rating was above the World Health Organization's standards. I never knew hairy crabs in Yanchang Lake near Shanghai had a huge counterfeiting problem that Pebble Tracker can resolve, right? So reading through that will give you a really interesting idea about where trust is broken in our world and how blockchain and IoT and IoTeX and Pebble Tracker specifically can fill those gaps. But I wanted to share three, that I thought really exemplified some of the themes around what we're seeing as Pebble Tracker use cases. The first one is extremely relevant, right, by Miguel. And this is around COVID vaccine and distribution tracking. So Miguel's idea was to use Pebble Tracker to track the end-to-end delivery of vaccines in order to track and prove the circumstances that a particular batch of vaccines has experienced. All you have to do is Google vaccine disaster stories, and you're going to see all of these examples of instances where if there was a Pebble Tracker to provide, verifiable light, temperature, motion data, then they would have detected these thefts of vaccines much, much earlier, or mistreatment of vaccines. So this one is, the theme of this one is around asset tracking things that move and making sure that when they're moving, the condition is extremely safe. There's another one here around sustainability, and it's by Aaron Umasak. And this one's around using the Pebble Tracker to track the conditions under which food is produced, including the intensity of light it's exposed to, the rate of chemicals in the air, and the humidity of the actual environment. So this use case is not really addressing food as is in transit, but it's talking about the environment that this food is grown inside. So imagine a Pebble Tracker being put inside a greenhouse or something of that similar variety. And then you can measure in real time and verifiably the temperature, the humidity, and the light that your crops are being exposed to. Once any of those are breached, you can send a notification to yourself, you can send a notification to anyone else, or you can even trigger another machine to make the place less humid or less hot in the future through these machine-to-machine interactions. But unlike the moving Pfizer COVID vaccine use case, this one's not about asset tracking, but it's about remote monitoring. And that was a big theme of use cases that we saw. Everything from monitoring crops to monitoring oil pipelines to prevent vandalization. These are two big things around asset monitoring or asset tracking and remote monitoring. And finally, one concept that is also interesting, the other two use cases we're kind of talking about using a Pebble Tracker to deliver trust to multiple parties. But one single Pebble Tracker could do that. This last one around air pollution in big cities, one of my favorites from Khairul Huda, talks about using many, many Pebble Trackers and kind of to build a crowdsourced network of air quality, especially in major cities that are suffering from them. So this is another variety of both remote monitoring for Pebbles that can kind of stay in one area, as well as asset tracking. If you put Pebble on a vehicle that's driving through Jakarta, for example, you can have kind of a dynamic and stationary map kind of as a hybrid. So these are the three varieties of use cases with Pebble that we really wanted to share with you. And it's really, again, thank you so much to the community for your great ideas. I was really impressed reading all we receive way more than 30 applications, but we could only choose so many. But go check them all out, go vote. And for those of you that want to build on Pebble Tracker, like I mentioned, it's going to be going on sale on Crowd Supply probably as soon as next week. So we're going to be launching that campaign. It's going to be open for about a month or so. And it works just like a Kickstarter campaign, except it's a bunch of hardware geeks instead of mom and pops that are buying products. But how it works is you can subscribe for updates. We're going to be pushing weekly updates to the Crowd Supply community, and we have some other really exciting things related to that. So for those that are in the community, I know you guys have heard some of this stuff already. So to drop some new news about Pebble Tracker, we can't name the name yet, but there's a lot of interesting partnerships that are being formed directly through IoTeX and different companies. One of them that I'm most excited for is the concept of using verifiable data from Pebble Tracker to inform the training of machine learning models. And this is a really interesting concept that we're talking about here. A lot of these use cases we're talking about is directly using data from a Pebble Tracker, whether it's temperature or GPS location, and directly using that data to trigger something else or to sell it outright in a data marketplace. But a really big use case of data that is now emerging and will be massive in the future is how do we use data from the real world that normal people can also own in order to train models that will be powering our future devices in the future. So we're working with a really interesting company that's going to be diving into this concept, specifically around a way to also bring you guys into that fold. So if you guys contribute your data to the model, you'll become shareholders in the model. And it's really an interesting combination of crowdsourced data, verifiability, and tokenomics. So definitely stay tuned to that. And stay tuned for more announcements about how we are bringing Pebble Tracker to different professional organizations that we're a part of. A lot of behind the scenes work that's going on. And speaking of behind the scenes work, that brings us to our next topic, which is about our big announcement that we made yesterday. IoTeX is now part of the executive committee. We were appointed to the executive committee of the China Mobile IoT Alliance. And for those of you that don't know China Mobile is the biggest telecom in the world by number of subscribers. Obviously, China has a massive population of cell phone users, but China Mobile is much more than that. They're not just a cellular IoT company, but they also have reach into pretty much every part of the IoT landscape in China. And specifically, what the China Mobile IoT Alliance is founded by China Mobile and backed by over 1,600 of the largest IoT manufacturers, service providers, and distributors in China. And the mandate of this is really to bring these organizations together and find ways that win-win scenarios can surface. And this is what really brought us to the alliance in the first place. It was all about how do we align blockchain with IoT in win-win situations. And we've been dying to really share the fruits of our labor, the things that are going on behind the scenes with you guys. One thing that I wanted to mention is oftentimes the work that we do in these professional organizations, like for example, the Industrial Internet Consortium and the China Mobile IoT Alliance, even the IEEE and the Confidential Computing Consortium, IoTeX has taken leadership roles in all of these alliances and consortiums, right? And oftentimes we're only able to share with you the presentations that we give, but the direct relationships that we're building with enterprises, for example, our partnership with WiseKey, one of the largest semiconductor companies in the world, was formed through our work in the Industrial Internet Consortium since 2018, right? And it was really great to see the outcome, but often the process and the trust building and the respect building that's needed to really align and see eye to eye with these enterprises is something that I think is not really known by everyone. So just wanted to say that these types of announcements mean the most to IoTeX, not because of just the China Mobile name, but because we know all of the work that was put into doing things like this. And oftentimes this work if it doesn't pan out, it's thrown out, right? So to see and bring this to life as a milestone is really important to us. And it shows that, IoTeX is moving exactly in the right direction to align ourselves not only with these alliances, but also to take leadership positions in these alliances. I can't stress how impressive that is. So just to dive into a little bit about the details about this alliance. So again, we're on the executive committee of the alliance. And what's really great here is you see IoTeX is also featured on the front page of the China IoT Alliance website. Of course, this logo wasn't here. I had someone ask me, they put a logo on the front page. No, this is just, tagging the box. But as you can see, Pebble Tracker, Ucam, and several IoTeX products are listed. And what this means is, the alliance members check into this website to read meeting minutes. Everything is housed related to the consortium here. So to see IoTeX being featured on the front page of such a marquee alliance is really music to our ears and something we're very proud of. But what exactly are these, not everyone can read Chinese. What exactly is listed here? And what are the offerings that are being brought to the China Mobile IoT Alliance? Let me explain. So over the past year, we've been working alongside several major institutions within this alliance, not only to push existing products that IoTeX has, but also to design brand new enterprise-focused applications that utilize blockchain and tokens in a completely new way. And for those of you that have followed our announcements, you probably see some products here that you're already very familiar with, right? Of course, Ucam here, Pebble Tracker here, Pantheon, which is our enterprise-focused blockchain here. And around these items, we're not just bringing the packaged products and asking them to use it, right? Of course, Pebble is a consumer-facing camera, and Pebble Tracker is more of a prototyping platform for hardware developers. But it's not the final products that these guys are interested in. It's the underlying technology that has their imagination running wild, right? The concept of kind of a combination of Ucam and Pebble Tracker, meaning a fully verifiable security camera, not just a fully private security camera as we've launched to the consumer space, but also a fully verifiable one where you can say, nothing about this camera. You can bring trust to a lot of different enterprise consortiums, especially when combined with our Pantheon consortium blockchain. So that's the first step in this partnership. And what really got our foot in the door is we really explained the underlying technology, how it can be applied in enterprise settings. And we've been really ideating on a lot of ways that we can utilize this concept in brand new products. And what that's brought us to is 2 brand new products that we're excited to unveil today as part of this town hall. And it's all about the first one, as I mentioned, is kind of applying the concept of verifiable video and verifiable camera feeds in order to generate value for enterprises. So one of the projects that we're excited to announce is 3D facial recognition utilizing blockchain and confidential computing. The benefits of this are obvious here, that when you're scanning your Face ID with your phone, then you trust it because it's your device, you know the passcode, and you trust Apple or whatever phone provider you have, that they're not going to be selling your Face ID, because that's going to be really scary if your biometric information is out there in the world. But when it comes to enterprise devices and access areas at your workplace that are starting to transition from normal key cards and key fobs to more two-factor entry authorizations using maybe a key card and your fingerprint, or your key card and your Face ID. And especially in China, the Face ID is the way that people get into buildings and areas now. So this utilization of blockchain and confidential computing is basically trying to apply tamper-proof technology tamper-proof hardware and tamper-proof software in order to manage facial recognition in a completely trusted way. For those of you that don't know about confidential computing, it's basically the concept of isolating very sensitive processes and data to ensure a safe environment for that data and those processes to be run. So this is already happening today with your Face ID when you unlock your phone with your face, but bringing it to the enterprise space at that level of reliability and security that they value is something that we're really excited to, be already actively working on within the consortium. And the benefits of this are, of course, greatly improving the privacy and data security for enterprises to enable trusted and transparent access control, even multi-stakeholder access controls, including entry to restricted spaces. So this is kind of the initial mandate of this use case. But just like we were talking about, a consumer-facing camera like Ucam, the underlying technology can be kind of applied in this enterprise setting. It's vice versa. A lot of the facial recognition and security things and primitives we're building around this concept will also make its way into other form factors of products, right? So this is just a very important example of how IoTeX's past work is not a dead end. It's more of a fork that will fork into different applications of this technology. And this is the perfect, I think, explanation of how that's ultimately going to work. Another thing that is kind of orthogonal to the supply chain work we're talking about with Pebble Tracker is this concept of supply chain finance and tokenization of accounts receivable. So this is focusing on a very, I think, narrow part of supply chain, meaning specifically the financing of accounts receivable, but it is a huge part of why supply chains have very high friction today. Just to explain a bit about what supply chain versus supply chain finance is. Supply chain is the act of moving these products around the world, right? Supply chain finance is how people fund the movement of these products around the world. It's more of the relationship between suppliers, distributors, shipping companies. And if you think about the very complex web of service level agreements that all these people have, and then you also understand that a lot of these these industries operate in a kind of a 90-day, 3-month lag kind of process, meaning if I receive my product, I'm going to give you a purchase order and then you have 3 months to pay me. You can just imagine how that really compounds upon itself and makes supply chain financing extremely difficult, especially for small players that don't have the cash to fund future initiatives, right? So a big part of lubricating the supply chain and improving the transparency of supply chains is to make those accounts receivable, meaning money that you expect in the future, to be available today, right? It's very much a similar concept of DeFi and liquidity on chain by making these tokenized accounts receivable available for trading. That means I can trade the money I'm promised in 3 months for maybe a little less money today because I need it to fund my future initiatives, right? And in the enterprise space, especially in China as the epicenter of supply chain of the entire world and of manufacturing, especially for IoT, this is going to play a big role in understanding where kind of the tokenomics side of blockchain, as well as, of course, the scalability and trust of blockchain can be applied to a very, very big industry, right? I think if there's one thing I could have the community know about supply chain is supply chain, yes, it's $1 trillion industry, but it's composed of dozens of sub-industries within it, right? Track and trace, different types of service providers, this entire supply chain finance space. So even addressing this subcategory of a sub-industry is already a massive problem that we're solving. And we're excited to work with a major IoT distributor and their network of suppliers on this project. So same kind of concept, the insights we learn from these engagements will make their way into other projects about IoTeX in the future. So that's our news about the China Mobile IoT Alliance. It's really great. Check out the blog post. I'm happy to explain what the projects that are backing this alliance are. And stay tuned for more news. These alliances operate in the way that there's a lot of quarterly updates and quarterly member-only meetings. Those of you that have been following us for a while know that every month, every quarter, we update you guys on what we're sharing with the Industrial Internet Consortium. And now we have leadership roles in China Mobile IoT Alliance, and we're also the co-chairs of the Blockchain Working Group as part of the Industrial Internet Consortium. And a sneak peek, we have a new consortium to announce a leadership role in probably sometime this month. So just another example of how IoTeX is leading the charge to make blockchain and IoT really a reality, right? It takes these types of efforts with enterprises to really win their respect, build their trust, and then become the standard that they adopt into their products. You don't see a lot of blockchain projects doing this hard work. Maybe it's because they're not capable, but it's really, I think it's about a long-term vision and a long-term focus that IoTeX only has, right? A lot of people don't want to sacrifice the short term for the long term, but we're doing both. We're having probably the most productive January we've ever had while we take care of what's really important for the long term. And I think that's really the theme about IoTeX in 2021. So speaking about IoTeX in 2021, it's time to really dive in to the roadmap here. But before we dive in, I see some Q&A questions here on Zoom. I'm going to answer these first. And before we dive into IoTeX 2021, I'm going to get a drink of water because I've been talking straight for 40 minutes and my throat is a little sore. Joe Goodman, our friend Joe Goodman asks, I wanted to delve into the questions about the evolution of the base software. There's a lot of competition in blockchain, in sharding solutions and the like, which promise high performance, scalability, security, or decentralization. Any evolution to ensure our leadership in this field as well? And congratulations for the huge achievements. Thank you, Joe. Always good to hear from you. I think this is a really interesting discussion on the value proposition for layer ones, right? We're seeing a lot of new attention in this space. The really interesting part of it is as Ethereum gas prices are literally the highest they've ever been. I tried to execute a pretty simple Ethereum smart contract the other day and it tried to charge me $500 to do it, right? So this is really bringing a lot of attention to other layer ones out there, right? A lot of people are still thinking about layer ones as what kind of bells and whistles does it have, right? Sharding is one of them. Sharding is simply a way to increase scalability of the chain, right? By replicating is a different way of scalability. But at the same time, a lot of the sharding blockchains that are out there have yet to prove the stability of their sharding. There's some major networks. I won't name names because we don't like to call out projects, but there's some really big networks out there that have had tremendous growth lately that had their networks go down, right? And that's just really surprising to see. And for us, for IoTeX, it's important to start from a foundation where we have the stability and the security of our chain, right? Our chain has never gone down, ever. And I think that over the past 1.5 years, almost 2 years that it's been live now, it's just really incredible to see the stability of it. That being said, a lot of the scalability things that IoTeX is really considering are at the layer 2 level, but we're taking a less conventional approach than traditional layer 1 blockchains, right? Of course, subchains and parachains are being explored by Ethereum and Polkadot, who have kind of a larger goal of being the general purpose computing platform. But for IoTeX, we are thinking deeply about this intersection of blockchain and confidential computing, right? Confidential computing exists both at the device level, but also exists at the server level with things like Intel SGX. So using confidential computing servers as layer 2 scaling solutions, meaning you can offload transactional work overhead from the layer 1 blockchain to what we consider to be a trusted robot worker, right? These confidential computing servers are the ones that manage already the most sensitive processes around everything we do in the real world. And they're a great way to offload work or processing to offload, computation for the layer one. So not only does it provide a great scalability approach, but it also provides other things that a subchain can't, meaning hardened security and absolute privacy. So it's almost like a privacy preserving and highly scalable L2. And we're excited to dive into more of that later this year. Anonymous attendee asks, hi Larry, Pebble after maybe body health check system chip. Yeah, sorry, I don't know what you're saying here. But I think you're asking about different Pebble idea use cases. Definitely check out that deck. Go to our Twitter, check out the 30 finalists for the ideathon, and you'll be instantly inspired by everything that they wrote. I can't tell you enough how proud I am of the community for launching all these amazing ideas. There's one on YouTube I see, Dustin. Is this alliance associated with China Mobile, the telecom giant? Yes, China Mobile is the largest telecom in the world by users. So that's something we're very excited about. D-Ray asks, is ZK Snarks integrated into IOPay wallets? If not, then when will it be? So ZK Snarks is not really a tool. ZK Snarks is a part of kind of the new Ethereum virtual machine offering. So yes, ZK Snarks is available through Cyclone, which uses ZK Snarks in order to obfuscate transactions and provide privacy for transaction history. So ZK Snarks is not like a token that you can add to IOPay, but you can be assured that the concept, the technology, the protocol side of it will be baked into more and more applications going into the future. So I'm a little confused about where all these notifications are coming from. Some are raising their hands. I see some people dropping comments in the chat, etc. But I'm gonna assume that that's all the questions for now. If you have questions, I don't know how this raise hands thing works on Zoom, but just drop them in the Q&A section and we'll get to them. But I'm going to jump back into the presentation now. So for those that this is what we really wanted to showcase. Of course, we just shared the new products, the new partners, and the new initiatives through the China Mobile IoT Alliance. But as much as possible, I'm going to share with you guys all that I can about what we have for 2021, and can't stress enough how much we're excited to really unlock this new chapter for IoTeX. IoTeX 2021 is really all about combining these individual threads that we've developed throughout the past 3 years and weaving them together into a cohesive platform and a cohesive ecosystem, right? A lot of the foundational things that we've been working on related to blockchain, we built our blockchain completely from scratch starting in April 2018, and now it is to the point where it's processing 10 million transactions. Amazing, but not mission accomplished in any sense. Blockchain is now a tool that everyone in the network can utilize, just as the same case is with decentralized identity. Our work in decentralized identity, mostly done with professional organizations like IEEE and IIC, we started that work probably in early 2019 and started to now publish the first white papers and tech briefs and starting to bring it to the point where our framework can start to be standardized. And that is an evolution, that kind of individual thread has evolved, but again, not mission accomplished. Now it's going to become a tool that will stack on top of blockchain to bring devices self-sovereignty. And just all these individual threads that we're talking about, right? Sometimes it's hard to piece together, but what we're really trying to do this year is launch products that comprise all of these things where it's very clear what each of them provides. For example, the blockchain has always been the root of trust for the entire network, right? Transparency and trust. Secure hardware is really the root of verifiability for the network. Verifiability meaning the data that I can grab from this device is trustworthy, and not only can I trust it, but anyone in the world that gets their hand on the data can verify that it's a trusted piece of data, right? Decentralized identity is the root of self-sovereignty and ownership in the network. So when all of these roots of fill in benefit here combine together, then you start to see those impacts on the applications that utilize these primitives, right? So as I go through this presentation, keep that in mind that, all of the things that we're talking about are not just flip the switch type of exercises. They are built upon all the things that have culminated over the past 3 years. It's just the perfect marriage of complementary technologies that we've always had in mind from the jump. We talked about this picture already, but just want to start by saying, regardless of all the technical things we're talking about or the new product features, our biggest goal for IoTeX 2021 is to grow, not just grow, but hyper grow the IoTeX ecosystem across number of delegates, the exchanges that we're listed on, the types of hardware that our platform powers, the applications that our platform powers, our partners, and most importantly, the number of people and users in our community. So we track these numbers very, very closely, and we're proud to report over 10,000 monthly active users of IoPay, and that number has grown, I think, even 20% in January. So amazing growth, more and more eyeballs on IoTeX at exactly the right time. Call it alt season, call it whatever you want, but more and more eyeballs are on the crypto sector than ever, and IoTeX is appreciating tremendous growth in that cycle. But jumping into the meatiness of what we're trying to accomplish in 2021, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this graphic because it's really important to understand the full sequence of what's going on at IoTeX, right? Again, you can see these boxes as very interesting concepts that a lot of people talk about, but honestly, I don't see a lot of people executing and planning and designing the way IoTeX are. And I'm going to really explain the step-by-step sequence about how all of these things tie together and why they matter. So those that are already in our community, one of the 2,000 people that already have one of these amazing products in their homes, this is really the concept of what is called a self-sovereign device, right? So our ongoing work in devices like Ucam is about embedding decentralized identities into these devices so they can have an identity of their own, and they can make sure that all the information and the things that this camera does are for the person that owns it, right? So where we're at with this is the concept of a trusted device that can verifiably serve its owner, right? So what this camera does is it only works for me, right? Even if someone wanted it to work for them, then the device is self-sovereign in a way that it knows its job, it knows it can do its role, and that concept is the most important foundation for what's to come. Without devices that have identities that you can actually control, then a lot of these things that we're talking about in the future really break down, right? So like I said, in this category, we're not at the finish line by any means, right? We're just at the start of really standardizing our decentralized identity framework into something that's digestible for not only application builders, but also for enterprises. It's a massive trend around decentralized identity and verifiable credentials in track and trace applications even, right? And we're also going to try to bring this to more powered by IoTeX products in 2021. So again, a very important foundation is the fact that you can trust the devices that are registered to the blockchain. The next big thing is once we have these trusted devices, can we trust the data that's coming from them, right? There's the difference between Pebble Tracker and Ucam in the sense that, Pebble Tracker gets its security, adopts its security from the hardware chip inside of it, whereas Ucam kind of adopts security from the fact that you have a private key architecture centered around a mobile app that protects your videos. But the next step after you have this concept of trust devices is you need to make sure that the data that comes from these devices is not only verifiable by the owner, but is verifiable by anyone. And that's a big jump that we're making this year, is we're not just making devices that work exclusively for their owners, we're making devices that can work for society, but trickle the proceeds to their owners, right? Pebble is a great example of this, right? If Pebble Tracker is being used as kind of an unbiased third party in your use case, then the owner of the Pebble may be earning some profits from, whatever types of services that Pebble is providing. But the important part is everyone in that network of users can trust the insights from the Pebble Tracker device. And this is really the concept of what we call a real world data oracle, bringing data from the real world to the blockchain in a fully verifiable manner, right? And again, I don't want to talk badly about any projects out there, but if you ask me, my humble opinion is that there's levels to this game, right? The fact that bringing data from a centralized database or an API and using it to trigger an action on the blockchain, that is okay in some instances. But when we start to get into the Internet of Things, where we will have devices as users of our blockchain, then we get to the point where, okay, if I put bad data and put it into a device, and that device, triggers something in the real world, think about, all those movies you've seen where the drawbridge goes up when it's not expected, right? If we ever envision a future where blockchain is going to be powering kind of these physical and digital interactions where, my GPS location can trigger an NFT to be created, or my interaction with a smart contract can unlock a door, then it provides a much higher standard of trust and a higher threshold of verifiability for us to use this data to trigger actions in the real world, right? So this is really where it comes into play, is the concept of Pebble Tracker and other similar devices becoming real world data oracles that don't just serve their owners like Ucam, but can serve other people and businesses, right? And I think this is really the big step leap that IoTeX is making this year. Our real goal in 2021 is to go down this path of, we want to give everyone, everyday people and businesses, we want to give them control and ownership of their devices, as well as the data and the value that they generate, right? So our role in this as IoTeX is a clean handoff. Here's verifiable data. And just like people have created really great use cases in the Pebble ideathon, we want to see what people will build once they have verifiable data that can remove a lot of these intermediaries that are really, profit hungry and not needed in the modern economies. So this is also not a dead end, right? This is going to be an enabler of the next thing that we're talking about, which is the concept of trusted services, right? So now that we have trusted devices that are offering trusted data, data is only one of the things that a device can do, right? When you think about a sensor, that's pretty much all a sensor can do, is give you data about the real world, right? Already that's massively valuable. If for all these remote monitoring use cases, if I don't want to go, downstairs and, check the weather, I can pull out my phone and check the temperature, right? But we cannot limit our understanding of the future machine economy to just one-way grabbing of data. It also has to be two ways, right? And the evolution of this is going to look firstly like this, right? It's going to be machines that service humans or deliver services to humans. And we always talk about the long-term future vision of machines talking to other machines and delivering services to each other. But before we get there, an important prerequisite is we have to make sure machines kind of work for us, right? So this is the natural progression of it. It's you first have devices that work exclusively for their owners, then you have devices that can serve data to society, and then you'll have devices that can serve services to society. And these two buckets are really where the people that set up these services, own the devices, and kind of maintain the ecosystem will be the ones that extract the value from this ecosystem, not intermediaries. So the last big thing that we're really kicking off this year is around this concept of decentralized autonomous machines, machines that can deliver services and also grab data and mint different types of synthetic assets, right? Whether they're access tokens based on some type of real world information, whether they are, fractional ownership of a machine and its future cash flows. For those of you that haven't read our decentralized finance for the Internet of Things article called DeFi, I really suggest everyone go take a look, because we really dive into all these different possibilities. We basically started with the problem statement of, if we owned our data outright, how could we use it today? Or if we owned our devices outright, how could we use them today? So we talk about a lot of use cases around fractional ownership of devices. As I mentioned earlier in the call, we have this concept even of fractional ownership of machine learning models. We have fractional ownership of data sets, and all of this stuff, again, is kind of an advanced concept, but it's built on the foundation of trusted devices, trusted data, and trusted services. So you can't just jump into this trusted services space. You have to build out, if you want this to be a long-lasting part of the future, you really have to focus on the primitives and how they evolve into the larger things. And this is where we really want to end up this year, is really producing the first decentralized autonomous machines that the entire community can interact with, right? Starting with different POCs, of course, but hopefully launching, the first decentralized autonomous machine in 2021 is our major goal. Of course, the pictures we have here are all areas that we're researching: mining machines, drones, solar panels. All of these things are really great examples of machines that will offer services to humans in the future. Drones can take images, they can deliver packages, and nobody wants to own an army of drones. In the future, there's going to be drone as a service. Who's that? How is the value going to be distributed? Probably through a blockchain with fractional ownership of the device itself. Same thing with solar panels. Who wants to own a solar farm? I want to own part of a solar farm as an investment, but I don't want to do the work of really installing it. But it really opens up a new investing landscape for renewables. And finally, we all know the mining space is massive. I read a stat that $800 million of mining revenue was delivered to the Ethereum network only in January. So there's a huge need for fractional ownership for people that don't have 32 ETH to run their node and who don't want to go through the trouble of using these very complex mining pools that have hundreds of dollars of gas fees. So there's a lot of opportunity here. But where does it all go towards, right? Trusted data, trusted devices, trusted services, great. What does it all mean, right? These are all also foundational primitives for what we call the Internet of Trusted Things, right? As I said, before we can envision a future where there's autonomous cars that talk to city infrastructure and roads, and all of that's done through cryptocurrency, blah, 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 right? Still pretty far away. We have to get to the point where we understand what are the primitives that will enable these types of use cases. One of them is simply the ability for machines to talk to each other and transact with each other. And that includes all of these primitives here, right? For one machine to talk to another machine, both of them have to have an interoperable identity. Both of them have to be able to verify that the data that they create was generated in a trusted way. And finally, they have to be autonomous in a way where they can recognize, oh, I have to talk to this machine in order to complete this goal. So before we talk about machine to machine as, coming next year, that we see a lot of people in the IoT space coming from, take a step back and just, see past the marketing and see what the work that goes towards doing that, who's really doing the work to push us towards that. And the last part I'll mention here is intelligent machines as market participants. What this means is that in the future, when we have these fractionally owned devices and fractionally owned algorithms, they can learn from each other, right? If you want to optimize how your mining rig works, or you want to optimize the efficiency of your solar panels using machine learning models, like, fractionally owned machines can talk to fractionally owned algorithms. I'm starting to get very, very far in the future, but just think about the possibilities. And the real important part is we can daydream about these possibilities as much as we want. Any project can do that, but building the foundational primitives in order to make these things a reality in the long run is not just about writing blog posts. It's about connections with enterprises. It's about building trust and respect with these alliances that we're a part of. And it's about shipping products that really incrementally add these features over time. And IoTeX is doing all of those things. So just to dive in a little bit, I forgot I had these slides back here, but this is kind of a schematic of what the real world data oracle concept looks like. Grabbing data from the physical world using our oracles, indexing them, processing them, making them blockchain ready on the IoTeX network. And another big initiative that we want to do is once we position IoTeX as kind of this de facto hub for real world data, we want to bring that to other chains, right? We're talking to some very interesting cross-chain aggregators that are cross-chain type of companies. Of course, like Thorchain, SwiftChain are doing really well these days. So we're in discussions with some of those folks to see where and how IoTeX digital assets and data can be used in the future. And we really want to position IoTeX as the hub for blockchain and IoT to really cement our place in the blockchain universe while we also pursue our individual products here. Decentralized autonomous machines, or decentralized autonomous machines, this is just a very high level schematic of what it looks like, right? Machine owners install the machines and maintain them. These decentralized autonomous machines have probably a list of services that they can fulfill, offering these services to whether it's a person or a business that consumes the services, will pay in tokens, and finally pass on revenue to the machine owner. The machine owner, there may be some other stakeholders here where there's a protocol that will earn a piece of the revenue, or anyone that has helped add data or algorithms to this machine to make it run better can also have a fractional share in this revenue. So the concept of building a trusted device that can generate trusted data is really interesting, but I'm personally really looking forward to all the ways that you can splice and dice this concept in a more tokenomics type of approach. And for anyone that's also interested in that, hit me up. I would love to just chat about that. I could talk about it all day. And getting to our last slide of our presentation today is all about the high-level roadmap for 2021. I'm not going to go through all of these, but it's all in our IoTeX 2021 roadmap. But these things I mentioned here are just the big categories of new initiatives and ongoing initiatives that we're really driving. But for everyone that's been in the network, even seeing the first part of the presentation, IoTeX is much more than just a blockchain for IoT. That's our specialization, but the chain is now powering DeFi better than other DeFi specific chains can. And, we're really looking forward to seeing how all of that evolves, and it makes its way into this roadmap in that way as well. This thing doesn't cover our relationships with different partners or community projects. Only the things that are in full control of the IoTeX Foundation as far as a timeline perspective are listed on this roadmap, but I'm happy to walk through all of them with you right now. So on the blockchain side of things, the last code release after mainnet GA version 1.0 was launched in June of 2020. We also launched mainnet version 1.1 with some great upgrades in October of 2020. The next upgrade is going to be version 1.2, and it's going to come with EVM upgrades, optimized storage and APIs, and peer-to-peer communication enhancements. And this may be chopped into two code releases, version 1.2 and 1.3, but these are going to be major upgrades to the chain. EVM upgrade is really going to be great to optimize the ability of smart contracts. As people get sick and tired of Ethereum gas fees, their eyes are on very fast, secure, dynamic chains like IoTeX. So we're planning to make the developability of IoTeX even greater with this EVM upgrade. Looking forward to version 2.0, something that we're really, really excited about is this kind of next step change in the IoTeX network, right? So some of these big upgrades like 1.2 or 1.3 are important, but when you make a step change from version 1 to version 2, that means really core parts of the network are changing, including the number of delegates that are mining, including potentially a new gas model to really greatly reduce the gas fees that are already very low on IoTeX, just planning for the future, and things like account abstraction frameworks. So these are on our roadmap for 2021 to not only enhance the current version of the blockchain with new upgrades, but to make a step leap in the format and even the underlying protocol of the IoTeX network. Real world data oracles, I already mentioned. I'm not going to spend more time on this. I mentioned this as far as the decentralized identity work. It's not just the DID protocol that we have. We're also building a software development kit for the access management surrounding kind of this concept of decentralized identity and verifiable credentials. And if you're not up to speed on that, we have great documentation on our website really explaining what a DID is, why it's important, how it differs from all the other different types of identity used today, and also why it's important to build access management frameworks on top of that underlying protocol to make it usable in the real world. And finally, the tools that have seen already, I think V2 is disingenuous here. It should be like V5 because IoTube has gone through so many enhancements. And the biggest enhancement that we're also announcing is, we're really working on driving down those gas fees. Some of it is out of our control because it does need Ethereum contracts to be triggered as well as IoTeX contracts. But we're planning to add more cross-chain interoperability options, smoother operations with both Ethereum, and excited to share with Polkadot. We're really looking forward to connecting with not only the Polkadot and Web3 Foundation, but also with the budding DApps that are showing up on the Polkadot network. And as far as that original goal I shared with you guys around wanting IoTeX to exhibit hyper growth of the ecosystem this year, IoPay is really going to be an important enabler of that. IoPay is going to be kind of like the de facto hub, the de facto portal to welcome and onboard new people to the IoTeX network. We're working on new desktop versions and mobile versions of the wallet. It's already extremely smooth, and shout out to everyone working on IoPay. It's just become an amazing app for the community, and it's only going to get better from here. Around the tokenomics and governance side, we've always shared that we've been rethinking the burn drop model. Right now, it's for every single device that is activated on the network. It activates a burn drop event. We're thinking about the ratio of burn versus drop, as well as different inputs that we consider to also be very important things in the network to track, right? So we're considering things about users and uptime and delegate productivity and how we can really align burn drop to benefit those that consistently refer people to the network and just kind of close the loop, right? We want to, we want to use the burn drop opportunity to also increase other metrics of the network, not just number of devices. So starting phase 3, we're going to have a new burn drop format, and it's going to be very beneficial to the IoTeX network and to all the long-term stakers out there. As I mentioned, as part of version 2.0 of the IoTeX mainnet, a new delegates program considering new roles and expanded delegates pool. I know we announced the governance working group. The governance working group was an initiative that was launched, I think, in November of last year. It's been a really busy past couple months, so we haven't been able to really hone in on the structure of this group. But it's very clear the first thing we want this group to do is define the future voting structure of the IoTeX network, things around what defines quorum, what defines a vote, what's the number of votes you need to have something pass, how does the execution of the proposal follow downstream, and things like that. The second thing that this governance working group is going to be discussing is the delegates program. What new roles, how many delegates we can expand to. So if you're interested in that governance working group, keep an eye out for announcements. I'm planning to hold the first meeting probably this time next week, so get ready for that. DeFi protocols for lending and borrowing and stablecoins. I have no idea what this means, but ask the Mimo team. But yeah, it's more about, I'm just kidding, bringing DeFi into the IoTeX ecosystem, especially this concept of an algorithmic stablecoin that I think they're working on. Very, very, very cool. And finally, before my voice gives out, different community task groups. We're also considering starting a marketing working group. We know there's a lot of calls for marketing from the community, but we also want to hear, what we can be doing better. This is really part of that hyper growth initiative of the IoTeX ecosystem. We don't know everything, especially with the internationalization of blockchain. So join this group, help us become better at getting the word out, and just, take it upon yourselves. Anyone listening right now, this is a lot of people ask us, IoTeX team wants to do this, IoTeX team wants to do that. I want to remove the word team from that equation and replace it with community, right? We can all do better. Even the people on our core team that aren't part of marketing are a part of the community, right? So we all want to evangelize what we're building. Share with your network our great news. There's never ending flow of news. It's very competitive for attention right now, especially with alt season kind of booming right now. So it really requires us to go out of our way and bring people into the IoTeX narrative, right? While people are still focusing on yield this, DeFi that, we need to get people to understand that IoT is not just a white paper concept anymore. It's real, and it's going to inform all these other things that people are working on in social, in DeFi, in payments. IoT is going to play a really big role to not only automate a lot of those things, but again, like we mentioned throughout this call, bring in new enterprises and build trust in those new ecosystems. We plan to host our first ever major IoTeX hackathon in Q2 surrounding Pebble, and we have some really cool challenges that we're thinking about. Again, if you're interested in helping us set up some of these Pebble hackathons or setting up a hub for your specific region, hit us up, and we're very happy to chat. And based on the success of this ideathon, we're going to host one every quarter. Starting next quarter, probably do a more open-ended one that really lets your imagination run wild. Even though the creativity of these use cases for the first Pebble Tracker ideathon were off the charts, I think the topic and the challenge was a little specific, right? Has to be a trust gap, has to be asset tracking related. We really want to make one that's all about verifiable data and how it can be used in the real world, whether it's from a camera, whether it's from an asset tracker, whether it's from your wearable, right? So for those of you that are finalists or didn't make it into the finalists this time, there's another opportunity coming in the future. And finally, we have a big goal. All the things we talked about here are things that are driven by the IoTeX Foundation and what we plan to do to the IoTeX network. But again, our real priority this year is how do we make our ecosystem better, broader, more diverse, and we really want to enable them to build really, really cool stuff on the network this year. So we have a goal of 100 active ecosystem projects fueled by Halo grants. Already well on our way there. We've given out 12 grants in the second half of 2020, and we'll have a brand new batch of Halo grants coming very soon. If you're interested in building or working on any of these things that I talked about during this call today, whether you're a tech guy, a marketing guy, a writer, I don't know, a sculptor, anything, hit us up. We're offering Halo grants, and we really just want to utilize the strength and the momentum that we have to make sure we hit all of our goals and our high-level roadmaps for 2021. And with that, we have some time for some final Q&A. I see a question from Dominic Malley. When will the new website be launched? If you're talking about the new website for iotex.io, we're actually working on the new copy and the new design right now. You should see some new websites popping up. But in addition to the homepage, there's some really great websites out there that everyone should check out. And they're always updated on a regular basis, right? One of them is ecosystem.iotex.io, includes all the projects, partners, and exchanges in the IoTeX network. And we update that all the time. So even China Mobile is on there already. The other one is IoTT Network, and that's a real-time view of all the devices and users in the IoTeX network, as well as the live burn drop feeds. And the big thing that we've been working on is an onboarding pack. We know that there's so much going on in IoTeX these days that sometimes it's hard to just find one place for everything. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're not going to include every nitty-gritty detail, but we're going to be really focused on this is what you need to know about IoTeX to get started. And then using these other kind of websites to really dive into what's in the ecosystem, what DID is all about, what our partners are all about. So working on consolidating all of that, I know is very important. But yeah, thanks for your question, Dominic. Any other questions, feel free to stay on here. I don't see any other questions here in YouTube. For those of you guys still on YouTube, feel free to drop any questions also. One new question, very interesting products and a project for cheap token price. Yes, that is true, Sam. Yes, that is very true. Awesome, guys. Well, I'm going to stay on here for another 5-10 minutes or so. Enjoy my coffee and get my Friday started. But thank you guys, everyone around the world that joined our town hall today. Can't express how excited we are about the future of IoTeX. I think if January is a reflection of what's going to come ahead in the future, it's just going to be such a fast-paced year, and we're more focused than ever. I think as the blockchain space is evolving right before our very eyes, and as our entire world is literally evolving before our very eyes, just go on to stress that IoTex's mission is more important than ever. The ability for us to own and control our devices is not just about privacy anymore. It's also about freedom and control, right? You see, it's not just people in the blockchain space recognizing it now, regardless of what you think about GameStop or these social movements that are really centered around self-sovereignty and the need for everyday people to benefit from the modern internet. These are things that are just should be second nature to us now. So for those of you guys, I see some questions here. So Joe Goodman asks, what is your relationship with Mimo and Cyclo teams? Mimo team is not Mimo team. They're called Capital Mu, and they are a group of financial practitioners out of Singapore, affiliated with the University of Singapore, where Jing and Kevin went to university. Kevin actually is very, very good friends with the Capital Mu team. So they are more on the finance, fintech design side of things, where we help them with some of the implementation. So that's kind of our relationship with them. As far as Cyclone, they're an anonymous team, choose to remain anonymous, but we know who they are, and we've actually funded their project through Halo. So when we put out Cyclone, when we evangelize Cyclone, it's because we verified the code. And yeah, we trust their team to hold 1.5 million IoTeX of your money. Sebastian Oz Sebahitan, sorry, I butchered that. I think NFTs will be very popular soon. Would you consider distributing NFTs to staking users like us in IOPay? Yes, and it's already happening, man. If you are a part of Burn Drop, then you can get an official Burn Drop NFT, which is really cool. And if you had purchased a Ucam before it went live on Amazon, we gave out a bunch of Ucam Pioneer NFTs. If you participated in the Pebble Ideathon, you are going to get a limited edition IoTeX Ideathon NFT. And if you win that, you're going to get another special NFT as well. So I see the allure of NFTs. We're not going to become an NFT marketplace, but we are going to use NFTs to distinguish certain people in our community for completing certain things so that we can reward them in the future, just to be very honest, right? Like if you guys hold 2 of these 3 NFTs, every quarter we might drop some IoTeX to everyone that meets the criteria of holding these NFTs. Even completing some DApps, like I know Travel Cat, which is a really sweet game on IoPay that you can play. if you complete that game, you're going to get an NFT as well, right? So I haven't been too deep into the NFT space. I know people are buying digital artwork that's represented as NFTs for, you know, $250,000. This is really cool to see. But think about NFTs as a tool, right? What backs the NFTs could even be real world data, right? If you buy a Pebble Tracker and you prove to me that, or not me specifically, but you prove to some application that you're in a specific place at a certain time, then you can mint an NFT that says I was at this concert or I was at this restaurant's happy hour or whatever, right? So NFTs, like everything we talked about in this tool is not a use case, it's a tool, right? The use case is how you apply NFTs to, you know, manage different types of collectibles in the future. But it's a really great question. Steve Loves God asks me, will smartphones get IoTeX integration? Smartphones are complex because of one thing and one thing only. This chip right here in the Pebble Tracker, which is called the secure element, is on Pebble Tracker, we've designed it to be open source and programmable, right? All the firmware and the back end of Pebble Tracker is fully open source, which is something that's very important. But when you're talking about things like your iPhone, the chip in here, the secure element that does your fingerprints and your face IDs is not open source. It's closed and non-programmables, right? So when it comes to writing applications that can grab data from your phone and write it to the blockchain, sounds like something so simple, right? But it's actually very complex because of the closed architecture, especially of Apple phones. Sometimes Android phones are a little easier to work with, but that doesn't mean that you cannot create apps that have similar like MetaMask type of signing qualities, right? IOPay is an example. Ucam is an example. These use your blockchain private key in order to generate transactions and things like that. You can also use your phone as kind of a gateway to write data to the blockchain. But as far as integration of phones with IoTeX, is kind of like saying, do you want to integrate an IoTeX DApp with a laptop? It's more web-based versus direct integration. But I really hope one day, you know, you'll have a absolutely private smart home by IoTeX. But I gotta say that's also a very futuristic concept. And I'm not doing it justice on the technical level, so I'm gonna stop here. All right, guys. Wow, it's already 10:40 here. But I hope this was informative for everybody. Sometimes, you know, adding this context to all these announcements is really important. Like you see the headlines on Twitter, we only have 240 characters to explain to you. So this process of explaining all of this stuff is very, very important, right? So hopefully it adds a lot of clarity to what is going on. Sam Warner has one more question around, is it not possible with the Bob phone from PundiX? I don't want to get into that because I have some strong opinions about their device. But all I'll say is I believe there are levels to this game. You know, PundiX is not the only one that's working on those phones. HTC had their own blockchain phone. Of course, Samsung already has a lot of pre-built wallets into it. But just because you pre-build a wallet into a phone doesn't make it a blockchain phone. It's just, you know, a phone that runs blockchain applications, right? It's very different what we're talking about. The ability to register a device and verifiably grab its data in a way that other people can trust it, right? The blockchain phones of today are really at the Ucam stage right now, where they're delivering value to their owners through convenience and through blockchain integrations. But when you're talking about a phone as an autonomous member of the future machine economy, not there yet. But well on our way, right? Like I don't want to say anything poorly about, you know, any projects in this space at all. Everyone's doing their own work. Everyone will pivot in the future, and everyone will, you know, need to react to the trends of the times. It's just those that can do it while still staying focused to the long-term mission are the ones that are going to succeed. And I hope IoTeX has proven that to everyone here. But no, that's all the questions we have time for today. Thank you to everyone again for joining. And we're going to do these more often. I think one AMA every month and one AMA every month, then a town hall, then an AMA, then a town hall, et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to have more and more like casual events, governance working groups, marketing working groups. I don't want it to sound like a working group. It's going to be a hangout session where we just talk about great ideas and eventually formalize them over time. So with that, I'm going to stop myself and really hope everyone has a great time with the excitingness of the market. You know, tell your friends, tell your family, and yeah, let's do a great job of bringing IoTeX to the next level this entire year. So with that, thanks to everyone. We'll see you guys soon.